Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, a story device that saves the characters when they cannot save themselves.
But we can't let the party TPK. The story must go on.
Let them TPK. The story will go on. Lessons must be learned. Let Jerry be revenged by the sudden reappearance of his long-lost twin brother, Powie.
In Tabletop, this Deus Ex Machina is another tool in the GM's kit. But what if I told you that for many systems, this is actually a player mechanic? And of the most well-known examples, one is wrapped in the veil of religion and the other is an item. So let's look at how we can add cinematic flair to this already cinematic event. Wait, let's back up. I'm sure some of you are already screaming, but Jake, the Deus Ex Machina is a cop-out. It often detracts more from the story than adds anything interesting. Yes, I hear you, and I know Euripides isn't off the hook yet, but we'll get to him. So let's kick things off with D&D's Divine Intervention, the poster child for clerics everywhere. Who cares about my world-shattering 9th level spells? I can call God once a week, and they have to answer. By the time you get Divine Intervention, you, the player, have a 10% chance to trigger it by rolling a d100 with a result at or below your level. This is not a cop-out, this is a pre-planned solution. Your deity has some form of established lore, and you have some form of a connection. It's a Deus Ex Machina that isn't random, but foreshadowed and calculated. That's something that almost all of these player-initiated intervention mechanics share: foreshadowing, because they are built into the structure and often the lore of the game. They are mechanics that are expected to be used. Except for you, Silvery Bulbs, there should not be a low-level meta that single-handedly undermines other spells, class abilities, and feats. Now, for lucky, Monty Cook's Cypher system has some of my favorite instances of the player-driven Deus Ex Machina. When you roll a natural 1, the GM gets to make an intrusion, the Deus Ex Machina, the antithesis to our subject, or as this wonderful Reddit post calls it, acute dramatic necessity disorder. Correct. Now, we've all definitely seen examples of this, but this instance is not one. This intrusion is an agreed upon mechanic. It's foreshadowed and the players can counter it by spending an experience point. In Cypher, you still use experience to level, but it becomes a situational currency that can be leveraged to trigger these intervention mechanics. And if you want to spend additional experience, you can, by introducing more permanent effects, rather than just these ephemeral solutions. And yet, despite this increased availability of player-triggered Deus Ex Machina, it doesn't decrease the impact of it because you still work to earn that experience, and you still have agency around the trigger. But what happens when your agency is limited or removed entirely? Our subject is famously a cop-out because it so often undermines the story. Changing the results of a hard-fought path, whether positive or negative, without proper setup and connection, invalidates all players' choices. It removes the weight of consequences as whatever they choose, the outcome doesn't change. If this sounds familiar, it should. Our subject is a famous trope, and in Tabletop, this removal of agency often typically manifests in a similar theme: railroading, which itself can be the subject of an entire video. So who's responsible for this cop-out? Well, that attribution falls to Euripides. As humans, we've been writing for thousands of years. Some of the earliest known compositions are from ancient Mesopotamia, and yet the term Deus Ex Machina was only coined in 5th century BCE by our man in question, Euripides, a Greek playwright. Literally translating to God from the Machine, Deus Ex Machina was popularized over Euripides' career, as his numerous plays often ended with a god descending from the sky, an actor lowered hanging by wires from a crane, the machine, to deliver divine intervention, typically in the form of an epilogue. As a modern viewer, this doesn't sit well with me because I don't want to be told what happened. I want to experience it for myself. And that is the problem with Euripides' use of Deus Ex Machina. It is a device that storytellers must use with caution to make sure that they do not devalue their audience's experience. Just as at the table, the GM and the players, all of us are storytellers that must share some agency in these moments. That's why I love the Deck of Many Things, as it is a perfect example of this shared agency. Originally introduced in 1975 with the Greyhawk supplement, 5 years before Greyhawk became an official campaign setting, we saw a deck of 22 cards. This takes tarot reading to the extreme and beyond, as the Deck of Many Things is not fortune-telling, instead it is fortune-giving and fortune-taking. By drawing a card from the deck, you gamble with your very life. But unlike later iterations, this original configuration was more fickle than fun. The Queen of Hearts provides 1 to 3 wishes to be taken when you like. The Queen of Diamonds provides a scroll with a myriad of spells. And the Queen of Spades, well, ends your life. No saving throws to be made, as the bargain was already had. Both a Diablos and a Deus Ex Machina, but whether it is a cop-out or not is entirely based on if the potential consequences have been foreshadowed. My players love the Deck of Many Things. Yes, things can go horrifically wrong, but sometimes they work out just right. 13, a player in my last campaign had some uncanny luck, just like his namesake, and he drew several cards. One led to a promised fortress that would be his. All they had to do was clear it of monsters. The other ensured that a powerful fiend became a mortal enemy. The fortress became an enduring asset, and the fiend a powerful antagonist that harried the party to nearly the conclusion of the campaign. The beauty of items like the Deck of Many Things is that they don't just evolve across editions, but across stories and systems. They become a concept that can be reused and repurposed for whatever approach we choose. The secret to the successful implementation of these invention mechanics in whatever form simply falls down to 2 things: communication and properly setting expectations. It's that foreshadowing I mentioned earlier. And that's how we make our subject cinematic, simply by preventing it from being a cop-out. But what is your experience with the God from the Machine? Have you ever been on the wrong side of the Deus Ex Machina, or, how did that Reddit post put it? Acute dramatic necessity disorder. So until I see you again, keep that imagination active, and enjoy gaming.